Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Teach, Sleep, Repeat. My name is Dylan.
And my name is Hayden.
Hayden, I'm really excited this week.
I know you
Genuinely, because this is one of those, podcast episodes, not that it isn't every week, but where I really can't wait to
talk about
my
me.
teeth into talk about me. Because as you can see, if you clicked on this, we're going to talk all about how to build a successful teacher side hustle. And some people might be thinking, who the hell are these guys to talk about this? But we've literally done it. We've lived it. We have a business. Because otherwise,
podcast.
No, it's not this podcast. Yeah, people clicking might think, well, is this podcast successful really? But Hayden and I have built a tutoring company over the last 5 or 6 years. It's crazy.
6 years.
So I'm really looking forward to talking about that and giving you guys as much of an insight as possible into actually how to do it and how to be successful. But before we do, as always, let's catch up with our week. Hayden, how are you?
Yeah. It's last week of term.
Yeah.
It's great. So I guess most people listening to this now probably broken up.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple of you.
Not us, though, eh?
Not us. Yeah. Some of you might not be so lucky. But no, it's been a nice week. Year 6 production.
Yeah.
Had our production. You saw it.
I did.
I did. We did it to the school.
And I've taught those children before.
Aww.
And, it is amazing how they put it together, isn't it?
What did you think? Because I haven't actually spoke to you about it at all.
Oh, it's just really good. I think there's two different experiences we can talk about here, I suppose. You've literally lived and breathed it for weeks, so I can imagine you're kind of sick of it to an extent. But the whole school obviously watched the production, and we went into the hall, and they did it, and it was genuinely amazing. Like, if you actually think about how hard it is to do a production, it's such a different skill set to anything they've ever done in school before, where it was an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes, and everyone had their roles. They had to know where to go, what props to use, remember their lines. It was insane.
Yeah.
I think it's easy to forget how incredible it is, and obviously the teachers must put in so much work into it, but the kids as well. It was heartwarming as ever.
Yeah. I was so proud of them, genuinely.
Yeah.
And what I really like about it now, I don't want to pretend I had loads of involvement in it, because actually I definitely didn't have the biggest involvement. So my head of year sort of led everything and did it all, and another member of staff in our year group did like the kind of props team as well. So there's like two teams to it really, which is the props team and all the acting and stuff. So I wasn't involved a huge amount at the start. I just got involved at the end and helped like pick up some of the pieces.
Just a summary of your career, really.
But the kids were so good, and apparently though on the second night they did it. So I was there for the first night.
Yeah, because they do 3 performances.
They do 3 performances. One to the school, which I was there for. One that evening to the parents, which I was there for. And the second night I wasn't there for the parents. The last one. And apparently the backdrop fell down and stuff, like mid-performance, and the songs cut out and stuff. But apparently it still went really well. Because you know what? The point is they're 10 and 11.
Yeah, I'm real.
And they were doing it all themselves. So they were doing I don't know about you guys if you have like productions at your school, but the kids were doing the sound.
Well, I was going to talk about this because obviously acting isn't every kid's cup of tea, and you obviously have main roles where you give to the children who excel in that kind of stuff, but there are other roles where kids still act, but then there's another layer of children who absolutely couldn't think of anything worse than that. But what I loved was that it was amazing seeing like the prop hands, can't think what they're actually called, but they're wearing all black and they run on and they know where to put the props, and then there's 2 children sat by the computer doing this doing the music
and the lighting at the back.
There's 2 children at the back with the head of year.
They had their scripts, they knew when to do it.
I just thought it was amazing. I thought that's what it's all about to me.
We even had some of the kids were directors as well, so they were sat in the wings prompting lines. If they forgot, they were there with their script saying the line to the actors, and they did it so well. I was just so happy that they did it all. I think that's the some of the benefits of having a large school.
Yeah,
I think if you just have a class of 32. Then you have to think differently about how everything works. But because we had 90 odd kids,
we're 3 form, aren't we?
It was like, okay, well, we need dancers separately. We have actors, and we had backstage all the props where people making the props that didn't even then like be part of the running on stage because they didn't want to, and then the lighting so it was just nice to see all the kids getting involved.
Did you notice what happened in the performance to the school? Did you see what happened in the audience?
I didn't see what happened. I just saw at the end there was a big hole in the audience.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, classic. One poor girl just threw up.
Oh.
And in the middle of the hall, and she's so lovely.
It was
this girl.
boiling in there.
It was boiling. It was hot. The kids were getting restless. It was long. We had an interval still.
Yeah.
But they sat so well. And this kind of leads on to the other point I was going to say. Anyone who's working in a school now, just in general, man, honestly, you're not alone if your kids are just completely unhinged. Like the most beautifully behaved children ever all year. Even they're pushing it a bit, like in the nicest possible way, where they're not even being rude. They're just rowdy, and I think everyone at this point, it's so hot. Like the classrooms are so stuffy. The kids have worked so hard all year, and they know we're kind of running towards an end. I wanted to ask you a question. Basically, I'm thinking about this week. We're kind of winding down lessons a little bit.
Yeah,
we obviously run until Tuesday. do you think how far into the end of the school year do you think proper lessons should go on for? Like, is it indefinite? A lot of people think, oh, it's on the way, or is there room for a bit of wiggle room?
It's a hard one, and it leads into a point I'm going to make in a minute. So
Right.
actually, so let's keep this in mind.
Okay.
I don't know what this, because I feel like the correct answer is supposed to be the narrative we're supposed to be saying is yes, maths and English and everything, all the lessons, they go on until the last day as normal. We don't have any interruptions because school is school.
Well,
They
that
have
person
the
says to me,
summer
maths
holidays to have
doesn't stop. You still need to have know how to get change and
yeah,
whatever. You know?
yeah.
Doesn't
So I
matter
don't
the
know.
test
Like, my gut feeling is that's probably how it should be, probably. But then the other part of me, which I always bang on about in this podcast, is like, actually, really, I just want kids to enjoy being at school and get some exposure to some subjects and enjoy stuff. But also, they're there to learn how to be social. They learn how to make friends. They don't just learn maths and English at school. So, is it nice that in the last few days that they might do some other activities that maybe they didn't do all year, but they get to do it now?
Yeah,
probably. Is it all right? Probably all right.
Yeah,
I don't know what the line is.
It's hard, isn't it? Because where is the line? Like, having a fun kind of still learning like lesson.
Yeah.
Again, that's different though to like, we're going to have a film morning.
Yeah, I was about to. Do you know what I was about to
film.
say? Because you did that Instagram reel, didn't you, about classic films, and I know people replied to that.
Yeah.
But that's the only one that ever makes me feel, and always has done, to be honest with you, putting a film on with kids, I'm like, they could just be at home though.
Yeah.
They are getting nothing. They could just be at home watching.
But some children don't get access to films. Genuinely.
True.
Like some children just don't have Disney Plus subscription, or they go home and they're bored, and kids love watching a film. And do you know what it does do? Like, again, maybe moving away from like the child's perspective, which some people argue is bad, but it does give people a chance for a moving classroom to start moving some stuff.
Yeah, it's good for staff.
if you want to have some organization time, you can just have that built in rather than it being expected of your holidays. And the kids watching a film, fine. I understand the pros and cons, but for me, crack on.
I always think of, maybe it's because it's so hot in the press this year.
Yeah.
But I always think of those parents who are like, they want to go on holiday.
Yeah.
And they would happily take their kids out for the last 2-3 days of school to get that holiday in a little bit cheaper, a bit earlier, knowing that there's a fine at stake now.
Sure. No, you need to come in and watch Shrek 2.
Yeah, they got to come watch Shrek 2. It's like, I just feel a bit awkward around it. I don't actually like admitting. I actually hate it. I would never go to the parents and be like, we watched this today. I just feel awkward because I don't know what sacrifices they've made to get keep their kid in school. And like, they might have thought, oh no, we can't go on holiday this year because fine, they're really hot on fines now. We're gonna just have to not go on holiday or go when it's more expensive. So what did you do today? What did you learn? Come on, justify this to me, child.
We watched Shrek in the morning and we had a games afternoon.
And then we all wrote our memories about the year and we wrote on each other's faces and went home.
Yeah, but it's nice, isn't it? That is such a grey area. You're right. Like, there's this whole different discussion probably to have whether fines are appropriate or kids should be allowed to go on holiday. Probably, where teachers probably should. But it's an interesting one, and there's never going to be a right or wrong answer.
Well, staying on this topic, I've got a question for you as well, because I saw this come up on Facebook, as I see many things, and it was about Ofsted coming in. So, listen to our previous episodes if you want to hear more about Ofsted, especially if you're not in the teaching world, but it can be quite a scary process. And I've seen a bunch of people recently saying, oh, we've got Ofsted coming in like today, and it was genuinely their last day of school, or within the last 2 or 3 days of school for them. And they were moaning about it, obviously.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I've never thought about this. Where do I stand on this? So I'm going to start with you. What is your gut reaction on the idea of Ofsted coming in within, let's say, the last 5 days of the school year? That's the time frame you get.
Well, do you know what? On paper, it shouldn't matter. But in the real world where we all live, it's an absolute nightmare, isn't it? And the reason is because whether we like it or not, we're winding down in different ways, right? I'm thinking right now of any school I've ever worked in the last week. You'll have a longer celebration assembly because you're giving out your end of year awards. It's this huge process where the kids
so
are
that
sat in the hall.
interrupts your lessons.
That's going to interrupt. You're not going to have a maths lesson. You might have finished your units. Okay, I'm going to deep dive history. It's like, we've taught history now.
Yeah,
we've done that. We've got no history lessons left.
There's none to look at.
There's none to look at. You can't walk around and see history being taught because we're not teaching history this week. Whereas if it's earlier in the year, you can move stuff about a little bit.
Yeah,
okay, we're doing a history deep dive. Let's just teach what we were going to do next week, this week instead, and next week we can do science. And that's got no impact on the kids' learning whatsoever. But it would still, you'd be able to show in that deep dive of history what your school does. It's harder to show off what your school does in this point of the year. Yeah. So it's two-pronged.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, there's that one, which is it's harder to kind of show how good you are. But there is also the other point, which is just in the real world, which is you are just winding down at this point. And you might have a year 6 graduation. And traditionally in your school, the whole school goes over to the church and they see the year 6 graduation. Or, you might have just built in lots of release time for your staff who are moving classroom because that you'd rather them do it at this time than during the summer holidays. And if Ofsted come in, that's going to be cancelled.
Mm,
and guess what that means? Not only do you have to plan new lessons that didn't exist,
Oh.
you then have to move your classroom in summer holidays.
Yeah, you're not going to get the time.
And Ofsted might go badly because of all of this put together, and then you've got that hanging over you over the summer holidays.
Yeah.
It's for me, just have a buffer of a week at least at the end of especially term 6 going into summer holidays.
It's a bit cruel, isn't it?
Yeah, because then all of summer you're just thinking, oh God, I've got to fix this, fix
But it all
that.
boils down to what we think Ofsted want to see, doesn't it?
Sure.
Because you know what, if Ofsted were good and reformed and real, then and we all had an understanding that, oh no, Ofsted know that in the last week these things happen, so therefore we just do it, and they come in expecting these things to happen, then maybe it wouldn't be as bad. But then I just say, was there any point you coming in then, really? Like, what's Ofsted, you want to come in and see the school in full operation, right? So maybe just don't pick that last week. Like, come on. It's never going to, that's not the best time
they
to
might
see school.
They might well be that way, we don't know. I don't know. I'll be interested to talk to these people.
Yeah.
Ofsted may well come in and be like, no, I understand that. They don't change anything. Because my understanding of Ofsted is you shouldn't change anything.
No.
So the only question that comes into it, the only question that comes into effect there, though, is are schools doing what they know they should or shouldn't be doing? Like, honestly, and we all do it. So I'm not going to pretend I'm higher or mightier than anyone right now. My kids will be watching a film.
Yeah.
If Ofsted came in, I'd probably be the first person to be like, oh, let's not watch that film.
Yeah.
So am I admitting at that point that actually I'm in the wrong, we shouldn't be doing it?
Yeah.
So is that Ofsted's fault?
Yeah. I don't know.
I think you've got to live in the real world.
Yeah, and you know what? In the real world as well, forget Ofsted. Any audit ever of any business ever.
Yeah, exactly.
As it, no one acts normal, do they? You all make sure everything, your shoes are polished that week, everything's ready in tip-top shape for that week, like when you're getting audited. So
that's so true.
It's not like it's abnormal, is it?
And it's very rare in other cases for the audit to be completely random and you don't know when it's happening. And by the way, it's tomorrow.
Yeah, that
like,
doesn't really happen.
I worked at Asda, so we said this a million times. I worked in retail, and every year we did stock take, and then we had people would come in who are external. Companies to help count stuff, and everyone came in for stock take. Everyone came in. It was like, it's overtime, you get paid for it, sure. But it wasn't a question. It was like, yeah, stock take, you're all in. And it wasn't part of your contract even, but I was like, no, you're all in for stock takes, we need to get ready. It's like, yeah, of course, if they came in on a random day and wanted to count what the stock was, we wouldn't know where everything was.
Yeah,
we need to get ready for that. We need to prep that. It doesn't mean that the function all year round is bad suddenly. It just means that for the day where you're being audited, you're going to show your best, aren't you?
It's kind of like speed cameras. I know it sounds mental, but I remember as a kid always growing up thinking, I remember being baffled for years. I said to my mum, I was like, why do they literally tell you that you're about to get caught?
Sure.
And I never really got that. I was like, surely the purpose of speed cameras is just to catch you out doing the wrong thing.
To get the money.
Yeah.
Catch you out.
And my mum was like, it's to give you a chance to do the right thing. She was like, it's a deterrent.
Because what do the powers that be actually care about the most? It's that you aren't speeding.
Yeah.
So do they care that where this? No, they want you to know where the speed camera is.
Because then you'll slow
That's
down.
why there's 7 signs. That's why a lot of speed cameras don't even have film in them, because they're just a deterrent.
Yeah.
That's why a lot. You go past a speed camera and there'll be people saying to you, "Oh, that one never goes off."
Yeah.
Like, because but why is it there?
But having that that stock take once a year or whatever, it's like, yeah, that's fine. Because you know what, that's the thing that makes everyone do it properly again.
Exactly.
And then, you know what, if it goes downhill for a bit for the year, it doesn't matter, because we have another one soon. We'll go back up again.
Completely.
It just keeps it there, doesn't it?
Accountability.
Whereas Ofsted coming in next day, it's like, could you just tell us a week, month before?
Definitely.
And you know what? We'll just do like every other business. We'll just get ready for it, and then the school will be fine. I don't know.
Right. I've got one thing. I saw this on social media. So this is the last thing before we go and talk about how we built our side hustle, our business. But it really made me laugh. I really wanted to share it on this episode. And I said, it is linked to school, I suppose. And maybe I'm manufacturing this link a little bit. Right. But whenever you go into school and something is different about your appearance, and immediately all the kids are like, you're different, you've had a haircut, oh, your beard's gone, oh, look, you're wearing a new shirt.
Bought new shoes.
Whatever it might be. The kids are so hot on it.
Yeah.
And it made me think of this reel of this one time. I had a nice big new puffer red jacket. And I really liked it, but it was a bit leery. It was
red.
It was bright red. Ooh. Yeah, you might not have even seen it, and this is probably why. I wore it a couple of times, right? And one of my friends said to me, they saw it, I think I posted a picture of me in it or something. And I was like, I got my new puffer jacket, a bit out there, a bit, fashionable. You don't see these very often. And my friend immediately just commented going, oh, you working for the postcode lottery now? I was like, okay.
It comes off.
I can't ever wear this again. And this links in with this post because I want to read some of these examples to you. And these are simply examples of people who've tried to almost reinvent their look or do something different with what they've done and how other people have reacted. And it cracked me up. Right. So here we go. One of the funniest things I ever heard was a girl explaining the difference between Glasgow and London. She'd moved to London, was dressing boldly, and no one batted an eyelid, like you do when you go to London. It's just, okay, whatever. She went to Glasgow and wore a beret out. And within 2 minutes, someone leaned out of a passing car and shouted, "Bonjour!" So yeah, that's Scotland.
Oh, comes off.
My youngest daughter was wearing a yellow waterproof jacket. She stopped outside a Glasgow railway station, notes the link, always Glasgow, and to light her cigarette. Someone from behind her, she heard a voice saying, "Hey, SpongeBob, any chance of a cigarette?" Can you imagine?
You'd be so annoyed.
Brand new car. Yeah, I look cool.
God, this would ruin me, by the way.
Oh my God.
This would... I'd never go out of the house again.
And this one completely killed me. Always seems to be in not England. It's like these people are just like, get over yourself.
Yeah.
In Belfast, I heard a story where a year 9, or a second year over there, went on holiday in Morocco and was asked to share his experience with the class once he got back. He talked about the decadent cuisine. So his nickname from then on for the remainder of his school days was Couscous.
I love it. We should do a whole thing on nicknames at some point because I love stuff like that.
Hey, Couscous.
That's so funny.
He talked about the decadent cuisine.
Brilliant.
Props to anyone who tries to be fashionable in Ireland. I wore a red beret once. Another red beret.
Yeah, it's the beret.
In
Stop
Waterford.
wearing berets,
I know, in Waterford. And someone called me Super Mario.
I love there's the weird lines clearly somewhere where it's okay to just absolutely publicly ridicule someone and shout something horrible at them.
But it's like, it's like, is it horrible to call someone Super Mario? It's just funny. It's not like, it's not, but it's like, but it is horrible. It's so, hey, SpongeBob. It's like, oh, that's only bad. Call me SpongeBob. Yeah. Right, let's call this the last one.
Okay.
And this is funny because it was a teacher who actually did this, and maybe we could like think about where the levels of banter as a teacher come in. I once wore a silver jacket to college, turned up late for class and said, "Sorry, I'm late," and the lecturer said, "That's okay," and then waited until I was halfway across the front of the full class before following up with, "Trouble with the spaceship again, was it?"
Yeah, that is peak humour for me.
Yeah.
Is like, you do it to me all the time, lull me into a false sense of security and then just rinse me in front of me. I'm like, for God's sake, you did it last week on the podcast where in the break, if you listen to last week's when he rinsed me after a jingle, because in the jingle I was like, "Oh no, I don't want to start, you start, you always start," and I was like, I don't want to start, I hate starting, and I was like, "Now you're going to take the mick out of me, aren't you, because I've made this fussy," and he was like, "No, I won't, just start."
I've got
1 second into it, you were just rinsing me.
I've got to tell you this one story of when my mum and her sister were together, and they don't get together very often because my mum moved down south, so we live in Margate down in Kent.
Sure.
And my rest of my family all live up north in a town called Runcorn. It's near Liverpool, so they don't get together very often, and they're extremely similar. My mum, my auntie, very similar. So when they're together, it's like they've never been apart, and they have the same laugh, and it's like a proper double act.
Yeah.
And so we were up north, and I was in my granddad's, and they'd both been out somewhere. And I hadn't seen them. I think my mum was staying with my aunt, and I was at my granddad's. So they came over to see my granddad, and I just looked out the window, right, and I saw my mum and my aunt walking in. Yeah. So I went up to the window and I pretended with my hands to do 2 binoculars up in my thing, like I was on safari or something like that, right? And they came in and said, "What were you doing?" I was like, "Well, I was on safari." And they're like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, we got a tiger and a zebra," because they were wearing animal print tops, and they were just like, "For God's sake!" And they were so annoyed. And the other point, I always do this to my mum, the same thing with you. She was wearing this top which had like 3 colors basically. Yeah. Right, so it was like one like triangular line going across the top and another straight one, so it's just 3 bold colors. Right. And she walked in and I just went, "Hey up, PowerPoint." It looked like a PowerPoint background. So mean, and she was like, "For God's sake, Dylan, stop so it." Mean.
I should know because I hate it. I have such anxiety about the clothes I wear.
Well, there was one point you had shoulders that came down a bit lower.
I just bought the t-shirt as well, and they came down way too low, and you're like, "Wee." It's like, but equally, I'll do it to other people, even though I hate it.
Funny.
You were in school wearing those blimmin'. You were wearing like trousers that went just above your ankles. Oh, you had no socks on. You had what's loafers? Are they called?
Probably.
Sliders? I don't know clothing names.
Yeah.
And I just immediately was like, "Cool, get my whole class to take the mick out of you." It's so bad. I never did to anyone else.
So bad. And then I never wore them again.
Yeah, you didn't. To be fair, so I did. Got my own back.
Rinsed that, didn't you? Got out of me. Anyway, should we do the jingle?
Let's move on.
Okay. All right, Hayden. We want to talk now how to build a successful side hustle.
Oh, would we know?
Oh, yeah. Well, the thing is, we actually would. Like, jokes aside, and, you know, sometimes very British to be self-deprecating and talk ill of yourself. But it is something we've successfully done. We've built a side hustle. It's now a business that kind of is taking on a mind of its own. It's
Yeah,
grown.
yeah.
It's grown more than we ever hoped it would.
It's
Really
allowed us to go part-time, and we've
Yeah.
talked about that in the past. How
Exactly.
It went part-time from it.
It's a tutoring company. We hire 14 tutors at the moment.
Yep.
We teach hundreds of children every year. Hayden and I make video walkthroughs for online. We create homework tasks. It's a really, well-oiled machine at this point.
Yeah.
And a lot of teachers, I know from the past year or two, especially with cost of living, more than ever, because of squeezing our pay, are looking for ways to make money on the side to afford the mortgage and things like that.
Yeah, and tutoring's a great one, but there's lots of other things that people do.
Sure. So I think what we should do is we should talk about our story, how we did it.
Sure.
How we actually managed to start a side hustle.
Yep.
It'll be in the context, of course, of tutoring, but a lot of the actionable steps we're going to talk about today could be applied to pretty much anything. And Hayden, I think what would be really good for people to start off with, just how did we do it? Because we talk so often about how teaching is such a stressful job.
Yep.
It takes up so much time. We do so much extra overtime that's unpaid, and we're so burnt out. Okay, someone sat there might reasonably be saying, well, I've got no time. How can I do it?
Okay, right. Okay, here's the first thing then. And we will flick back and forth for lots of stuff. I just know it. As always, Dylan and I haven't really planned it. We've just written some random bullet points and we're going to go for it. But do you know what? The first thing I will say is it was born from passion. I think it has to be something you enjoy. Whatever your thing is, it's got to be something you're going to enjoy. It's hard to, a lot of business people will say that online, it's hard to make a business if you don't remotely enjoy the thing, just to try and make money.
Yeah.
So for us, it started with, we love teaching.
Yep.
We'd got caught wind of tutoring and had discussions in the past of that'd be a fun thing to do in the future, wouldn't it? Like start a tutoring company. And what happened was Dylan basically, once we'd had this discussion about tutoring would be really fun because we get to be our own bosses, we can teach kids, it'll be so cool. Dylan one day was like, should we do it then?
Yeah.
Because a lot of things, and you're probably thinking this right now, I bet you have lots of ideas and have had lots of ideas across your life where you're like, that'd be a really cool thing. And you might even flesh them out in your head and then go, that was a nice idea.
And get on with your life.
And then get on with your life and not do it. And you might make up excuses. You might have real excuses. But for us, we were like, probably a few weeks went by and then you were like,
wait a minute.
we could just do it though.
Yeah.
No, it's like we didn't realise, we can just do it. It's not just a thing in the future. So the first point of us was picking a passion, having a little idea, and then just the first and hardest bit is going from it being an idea to literally admitting, not even doing it yet, just saying, we are going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and it sounds to some people, I can imagine, it's not really a tip, is it? Just do it. I promise you it is.
Yeah, it's the hardest bit.
Because a huge percentage of ideas get lost, and they're fantastic ideas, and someone could be really successful. They get completely lost because they simply just don't do it. And the reason why it has to be a passion, I would say, and I'd add to that something you're good at. And as teachers, there's loads of transferable skills we have.
Yeah.
For us, we chose tutoring. It was the most transferable thing we could possibly do because it's literally what we do every day.
Yeah.
But I would add to being passionate something you're good at.
Yeah.
And the reason it has to be those two things for me is because it makes just doing it easier.
Yeah.
So if you manage to hit something you're passionate about and something you're good at, the idea of you being a burnt out teacher doesn't matter as much anymore because you'll be doing something you don't mind doing instead of watching that film.
Yeah.
Instead of just sitting around doing nothing or reading that book. If it's a passion and you're good at it, it turns into your hobby. And it kind of did for us at the start.
That's a really good point because I tell you what, even to this day, it feels different when we do things for our tutoring business. And compared to if I'm knackered, right, I'll do something for our tutoring business. Whereas if I was doing something at home knackered on a weekend and it was for school, I'd be resentful because I'd be thinking, I'm already paid a set amount for this job. Like I've done my hours, I've done my time. Whereas for our own thing, it has that hobby feeling, even when it is just a monotonous job at that point. It's something we've got to get done.
So as a teacher, I suppose those are the main things. Get started. When could you get started? What's the best time? Because I know for us, we really utilize the fact we were teachers to our benefit. And we use that time that we get.
Yeah. Well, look, teachers, we get good holidays. We do get good holidays. And yes, they're for relaxing. But you know what? If you want to go that further, if you want to make a side hustle, it's got to start somewhere, right? A side hustle doesn't come for free, is one thing to say. But we use the holidays. Now, summer holidays, thinking about right now, it's coming up, some holidays are starting. That's when we started. So we had our ideas. We were thinking about it through the term times, but we were too busy. We kept pushing it back. But when it came to summer, we committed. We'd said, this summer, Dylan or Hayden, whoever's speaking, we are going to put some time into, let's block out some time. When are you free? Let's put 2 weeks aside and we're going to think about this tutoring business. And that's what we did. We just did it. We put some time. I went to your house. You just bought a house, or I don't know if you bought the house then. Actually, I think you had.
No, we started this company honestly around the time.
Because it was at my mum's house.
We're at your mum's
we went
house.
to my bedroom,
and then that January I moved house.
Yeah,
so
that's
so
right.
we were literally the classic in your mum's bedroom starting a business.
Yeah, with a bit of paper. And you look back, and it's like we were naive.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah.
And I guess that brings on to another point that I'll bring up now. Don't be afraid to just give it a go. No one's going to laugh at you. And do you know what? If they do, tell them to go away.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure people probably looked at us and thought, these guys thinking they can start a business. Oh, well, 6 years down the line, and we've done it now, and it's working really well. But at the time, we were naive. We had no idea what we were doing. We had absolutely no idea. We just did what we thought was fun, and we were passionate. And then we learned along the way. That's simple as that. We just got the train running.
Fake it until you make it.
Yeah.
And again, it sounds so cliche, this advice, but it worked for us. You have to fake it until you make it because we were swamped. If you remember the amount of conversations we had, we were absolutely swamped with self-doubt and imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Because we were 2 years into our teaching career. You were 3 years into yours.
Yeah, 3 years and 2 years.
Very early, really. And we'd had lots of conversations with people before who were 8, 10, 12 years in who were like, oh, yeah, maybe at some point I'll be confident enough to go into some tutoring. And you know, I've built up enough experience at that point to do it. Do you know what? You have to just do it. And it's about not being embarrassed.
Yeah.
You know, make that Instagram reel. Back then, Instagram reels weren't really a thing, but we made YouTube videos.
Yeah, we made a Facebook page.
We make a
videos.
Facebook page. We went to Fiverr. We got someone to make us a logo.
Yeah.
You know, all these little things that you just have to do and not worry about what people's opinions are.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you will never, ever, ever be worse than when you started off.
Yeah.
That is the absolute lowest point you will be at. So if you start off and you do something wrong or someone laughs at you, do you know what? I've got 2 customers. What?
Yeah.
Let's just reframe what 2 customers is for a minute. 2 customers are 2 people saying, I trust you to give you my money and give me a service.
Yeah.
That's unreal.
A good sign that other people will as well. I remember we started with 8. And we started with 8 and they were all...
Eight children.
Eight children that came to me and Dylan. That was our tutor because we started a group basically. And they were all ex-children. So we had, we didn't have any... No one knew who we were at this point. It was just people that we knew that were relying on us to get us started. And that's where it started. I want to come back to YouTube videos before I can imagine we're going to tangent off into like money and risk and stuff in a minute. But I want to talk about YouTube because I think this is just a good fact to share. Our YouTube channel has been going... We started it pretty much when we started the business. So it's been up and running for about 6 years now. And we didn't do our first video until about 5 years ago. So it's been a while, right? And if you look at our YouTube stats, obviously you guys can't see, but I'll tell you right now, if you look at our views at all time, the first 3 years of us making YouTube videos, honestly, we just got absolutely nothing.
Flatline.
We were flatline. We were not getting viewed. We get like 10, 20 views on a video. And we just kept making them because we just... And my overall point here is you have to be consistent and patient. We knew that eventually, every single time we made a video, we were slightly better off than the last one, even if it was one more subscriber. We know that everything works in curves, right? Eventually that curve was going to get steep enough where it was actually, you could see tangible progress. And it did. And our YouTube channel last year over doubled in 1 year, and we're on 16,000 subscribers now. Whereas it took us, I wish I had the document. We wrote down how long it took. It took us like 3 years to get our first 100 subscribers. Yeah. And then it took us like 1 year to get to 1,000. Yeah. And it took us like 4 months to get to 5,000. Yeah. And it took us and it was and then it was 1 month between 10,000 and 15,000.
Yeah, it was unreal.
But it took that. We'd already made 150 videos by this point.
Yeah, we're on over 250 videos, I think, on our YouTube now. You can't have a YouTube with 250 videos with over 1 million views until you do your first video. Yeah, it's as simple as that. You cannot look at someone, and this is something we did a lot when we were starting off, almost enviously. We looked at people enviously and we said, oh, well, I'll never get there. This person has 100,000 subscribers already. This person has 1 million subscribers. This other person, has already cornered this market. There's tutoring companies all over the place. Do you know what? Yeah. There's room for everyone to do it. And you're never going to be able to do it. And this sounds silly now. I'm going to kind of go on a little tiny tangent here in terms of this podcast. How many education podcasts are there? Loads. Yeah. There are people who start podcasts who have already got 100k, 150k followers, and they'll immediately have a nice following on their podcast. And the amount of work we put into this podcast to build our community, they can do it in 1 week because they just started.
It's been a year and a half for us now.
Yeah, and it's just, but you can't compare. We were up to 6,000 followers on Instagram. We get people listening every week. It's part of people's routines. It's unbelievable for us, and it's really working for us. And we have a long-term plan for this podcast. We know it's going to be a long time of being consistent. And where we are with this podcast as a kind of side hustle, I suppose, but something we also are passionate and enjoy. Our long-term plan for this podcast is that it will be successful. We'll find sponsors. We'll grow the audience.
Yeah.
But we know from what happened to YouTube and our previous side hustle that it might be 4 years of feeling like you hit your head against the wall.
Mm-hmm.
But in that 5th year, you've built up 200 podcast episodes. You've got loads of Instagram reels. You've got loads of content that people enjoy, and it's going to compound.
Yeah, and something comes from it. Yeah, so I think overall point there is being patient. It's cliche, isn't it? Everyone says patience, but you really, really, really do. Everything we've done has taken so much time to build up to the level where we actually want it. Nothing has immediately happened. That's for sure.
No, you get these things on social media, don't you? Where I see them all the time now. I think because we're in the world of tutoring and stuff, where I'll get someone, in a hip, cool outfit, being like, "You want to replace your teaching salary with just 2 hours of tutoring a week? Well, just follow me and buy my course for £700." Like,
yeah.
Come on,
Yeah.
we've been doing this, grinding our guts out for years. I've done it quicker. Maybe I'm sure we'll talk about that later on in terms of risk and stuff. But being realistic and having a long-term plan with patience. Is so important. So how did we do that?
Let's talk about that then. So this is our tips we need to do. You need to have a plan. You need to have multiple plans for multiple time periods as well. Ranges. I can't speak.
Time frames.
Time frames. That's the one. Time frames, and be prepared for them to change as well. It's fine. Dylan and I all regularly get together and just think, what's our goal? What's our end goal? Is it changing? Has it changed over the years? Probably.
Yeah.
Realistically.
I think so.
Yeah. And we think, okay, that's in 5 years we'd love to be here, and we dream big as well. I think dreaming big is really important because you shouldn't see it as a failure if you don't get there.
Right.
I remember getting good advice early on, which was like, dream really, really big, and if you get halfway there, that's incredible. Yeah. Because that's the way to think about it.
Yeah.
So we'll dream really big, have a 5-year plan, have a 2-year plan, have a 1-year plan, have a 6-month plan, whatever.
Yeah,
and then get started.
Working backwards is actually really powerful because I think what kind of happens is, and again, anyone thinking of doing this, again, nothing wrong with thinking, okay, what's my optimal outcome of doing this side hustle? Well, in 3 years, I want to be able to go part-time. That's going to be a very realistic aim where you've replaced a part of your salary with this business that's thriving and that's your aim, and you can be like, cool, well, if I want to do that in 3 years, within 2 years, I really need to be making this much money. And for my business, that means selling this amount of things.
Exactly that.
So actually, okay, by 2 years, I need to be selling this amount of things. That means by 1 year, I need to have created all of this stuff. I need to have created 5 different resource packs, if that's what you're going to go for. Or I need to have invented 3 services if I'm doing tutoring. And working backwards, what happens naturally is, although you dream big at the end, the closer you get and the more short-term your targets are, the more realistic they get naturally, because you're just actually then mapping out what needs to happen by when.
Yep.
And it ends up being that actually, okay, we have our dream big moments and we think, what do we need to do? But then by the end of that conversation, I know that by the end of next term, or after the next summer holiday we get where I can apply 6 to 10 hours of work to it, I know then what I need to get done in that time. And then it's actionable. And then I have a small success. And I've created this thing now. And I'm one step closer to reaching my 6-month goal. And if I manage to get my 6-month goal, my 12-month goal is available.
Yeah.
And these small steps, it kind of being able to break up your dream into small actionable steps means you can actually do it, rather than, wouldn't it be great to quit teaching and be a tutor? That's what a lot of people say to me. And I'm like, yeah, it would. And I'm 5 years on the way to doing that. And you've got to have a plan and understand that the first 300 hours of work you put into something, you won't get 300 hours worth out.
Exactly that.
But I tell you what, I reckon the last 10 hours of work I've done for our business at this point is worth way more than I did in my first 300 hours. So it compounds. It's the biggest thing we can say. And the way to action that is to have long-term aims and break them down into short, actionable steps.
And try not to compare yourself with other people, because you know what? Is there someone who has like created the same amount of revenue as us through tutoring in a fraction of the time? Probably. Do I care though? Genuinely? Not really. I think it's great to celebrate their success, but it doesn't make me feel bad about the way we've done it. So try not to compare your plans with other people. You might have a very different lifestyle to someone else who could devote, sink way more time into something than you. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. I think that's the way to look at it. And also the power of the subconscious. Now, this is something for us. I don't know if this is applicable to everybody.
Okay.
But when we dream big,
yeah,
what I've noticed me and Dylan have done over the last 6 years is we have subconsciously planted seeds in our own heads, and the amount of times that 2 years after we'll find a chat we had 2 years before and be like, oh God, we had that idea 2 years ago, didn't we? And we've just kind of accidentally built towards it. And now it's a reality. And we hadn't even really thought about it, but it's because we'd dreamed big all these times that we'd sort of kind of accidentally been working towards some of these smaller things. And it's like, and we look back sometimes and think, oh, that's really cool that we had this idea 2 years ago and now we've actually done it. And
do you know what we're actually talking about here? Interestingly, it's something we might scoff at right? But we're actually talking about manifestation here, really. This is what people mean when they say manifestation, because like me and Hayden will be the first people to be like, just saying something won't make it happen. You can't just manifest things into existence. But the practical reality side of what manifestation actually does is that it makes something more real.
Yeah.
And if we talk about it and say it, that seed is planted in our head, and subconsciously, you're right, you will work towards it. You've still got to do it. It's not just going to happen like that. I think that understanding of manifestation clearly doesn't work. You can't just think, I want to be rich, and then hope one day you're randomly rich. But if you have an actionable plan with a long-term goal, something you're passionate about, something you want to do, something you can see yourself with small steps getting towards, that's where manifestation becomes really powerful. And I don't like saying we manifest, but that's basically what we're saying right here.
We do it in our own wishy-washy way. We do. And we do everything in our own way. That's the nice thing as well. You know, you do it in your own way. There's a lot of advice out there. Yeah. And obviously it's ironic, you know, we're giving advice right now, but there's a lot of people that will say, this is how you do things. Yeah. And actually just take it with a pinch of salt. Sometimes we are like, oh yeah, that worked out well. And other times it just wasn't the way to do it. And it doesn't matter. Well,
I want to kind of leap on from something you said there then, because you said about comparing yourself to other people, and you know, there's more than one way to do things, and someone might get there quicker, someone might get there slower, more slowly. And there's this element of risk, I think, when you start a new business, and it's something we took a very, very, very straight path down, not taking much risk at all.
It's the fear factor, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the fear factor. So you might want to take risk, plow money into something, quit your job soon, so you've freed up lots of time. That's huge risk, and there could be huge reward from doing that, or huge failure. It's down to what you want to do. Our tact was to really take a risk-free approach, and that was detrimental to our time. But we didn't really put any money in. So do you want to explain how we went about that?
So it was it's the slow and steady approach, right? And for a lot of teachers, I think this is probably the most relevant, because you know what? If you're listening to this, you might have a family, you might be living somewhere, you might have bills to pay, mortgage. There's going to be commitments probably in your life, you know. So we took the approach of, we don't have thousands of pounds to plow into this idea. We do have, 50 quid.
And knowledge.
Quid, and a bit of knowledge.
Because we were using what we were good at.
So we did the slow and steady approach across the whole business. So any time we needed to invest money, and this applies to literally any point in the last 6 years, whether it's 50 quid for a logo or whether it's thousands for website things, we always took the approach of, we'll make the money first.
Sure.
Now, if you go to a business guru out there who is all about that, their life is just capitalism, making money. They would tell you, get into good debt, borrow money, fast track the business, and pay that money back, right? Which is a legitimate business.
It could work.
But you know what? For us, and this is where you don't compare people. For us, we didn't want that stress.
We're not business people.
It was a side hustle.
Yep.
You remember, this isn't, we didn't just quit our jobs. This was a side hustle. We had no business knowledge whatsoever when we started this. So we just took the approach of, okay, we've got 8 kids starting tutoring with us. That makes us this amount of money. Cool. Well, for our first chunk of money, then we're going to use that. We're going to get a little website. Yeah. Cool. Next chunk of money. Now we're going to buy these things for the service.
It was Squarespace, wasn't it?
Squarespace. We built our own little Squarespace.
I think, thinking back, I remember we spent 200 of our own pounds before we generated any money.
Yeah.
And from that moment on, we never ever spent our own money on anything.
Yeah.
So when you look at our business now, we tutor hundreds of children every year. We hire and employ 14 tutors. We're part-time. Yeah. This was genuinely all built from £200.
£200 investment.
Yeah.
And a lot of time.
And that's where the risk has to come in. And that's where we worked hard for it. And this whole episode, how to build a successful teacher side hustle, you don't need to end up where we were.
No.
You can put less time in and just have a goal of, I want to have £500 a month.
Yep.
If you want to build £500 a month yourself, do you know what? You could just tutor yourself. You don't need to hire tutors.
You don't need
to go into anything like that. All you need to do is have that plan and the actionable step to get there, and work at it in your own time and use your holidays.
Let's talk about that £200 for a second. So let's really get into the nitty-gritty of this, because some people I think are listening and thinking, okay, what do I do though? Yeah. What do I actually do? So what would that £200 go towards? Well, the first thing is once we'd thought of a name. So we were very excited to do the stuff that hilariously isn't that important looking back, but we were like, no, we've got to have a name.
Yeah.
We've got to have a name.
And it is really
important, but we hadn't thought of the service yet.
Yeah.
We were like, go have a name. And we sat down, we thought of names. So quick bit of advice in the middle of this. When you're thinking about a name, if it's a company, a limited company, or if you're going to be a sole trader or something, do a bit of research first. Like look around, make sure the domain for if you eventually want to get a website is available for that, or something at least that's suitable.
Buy it. You don't need a whole website, but you can buy and reserve a domain so no one else can use it.
Go onto GoDaddy and just buy it. Buy
get
the domain.
.com, get .co.uk, get whatever else there is.
Whatever else you need, but .co.uk and .com are the most important ones. .co.uk is the most important because it's for the English domain. What was I saying? So we bought that. We had £200. We looked at the name, we looked it up, we made sure it was all good. We made social media on it as well. That's another thing to look at, because later down the line we found out someone had the exact same name, and we were like, oh, why didn't we check this first?
Yeah.
You know, so in hindsight, I wish we checked a bit more.
Yeah.
But then in terms of money, there's no money down at this point. It only cost us, I think it was, I could be wrong, about £16 or something like that.
To reserve the domain.
To not the domain, on Company's House.
Yeah.
To create the name of our limited company.
Sure.
It wasn't, I think people think it's really expensive.
Yeah, no.
A big fee to start a limited company. It's really not. It's quite a small amount of money.
But there's a fee for the domain, which was like £6.
Yeah, the domain
£7
was. Yeah, we bought that for pennies at the time, because a lot of domains go for 99p if they're not that. If you want www.tutor.co.uk, you're going to be paying thousands, and someone will already have it. But we didn't pay much, so we weren't much money in to being able to have a name that was registered as a company on Company's House with us as directors on it.
Yep.
And then we were like, okay, we should probably get a website. So we just literally, Squarespace was like 20 quid a month.
Yep.
And we just built our own website. It was terrible. At that point, we were like, we need a logo.
Yep.
And then, so we went to Fiverr or People Per Hour, one of those websites where you can just get really quick, cheap work done by professionals all over the world. Spent about 40 quid.
Yep.
We got our first, maybe we'll share it one day. We got our
we should share on our Instagram. You should follow us at Teach Sleep Repeat Podcast. Follow us on Instagram. I will share at some point the first draft for the logos, because obviously anyone who doesn't know, we're called Top Dog Tutoring. If you want to check out our stuff, by the way, go to topdogonline.co.uk. All our resources are like there for you to see how it works, and you can see our tutoring team. Check out the website.
It's not the same website. It's not, because we'll talk about how later down the line we upgraded and we spent a lot of money on building a more bespoke website.
Sure, we'll talk about that.
But again, even with that, I'll say we didn't do that until it was risk free, in terms of we had saved up the money over years in the company. Then we were like, cool, now we can do this next step. Other people might be like,
a step that we planned ahead, and we knew
planned
to get
ahead.
there.
Other people would say, take that risk, do it straight away. But back to the whole point, that £200 we spent, £100 each, got us a logo, a name, registered on Company's House, and a couple of other bits.
I think it was. We also got I can't think of the word. A consultation with an accountant.
Of course.
So that was within the £200, because it was like half an hour of an accountant we knew, and most people know someone. And the other thing was we bought about 40 quid's worth of books. Don't you remember?
Yeah, a bunch of
because
resources.
we wanted to take books, and we wanted to make our own resources and stuff like that. So that was something where it was almost like research for us. It was like, okay, what is in these tests?
Enough. Yeah, it was that was enough to get started and have 8 people.
And then what we did was we got 8 people in the room and we tutored them, and it was insane, because at the end the parents said thank you and paid us money, and it was like
we were like, ooh.
This within 2 or 3 weeks we'd made back the £200 and more. And we weren't even thinking at that point, let's sit down and work out what we're getting paid per hour, shall we? No, it didn't matter to us, because we wanted to make something that was existing, that was functioning. And then the next goal was, okay, we know we set prices at a certain point where by definition this is profitable. Mm-hmm. So we didn't have to think about that every single time, because I think some people, honestly, naively, I've seen small businesses who kind of go 40 quid. You get a lot of companies who will set up this, in COVID, a lot of companies got set up like they're doing crafting at home or something. And they just look at it and they go, I guess that's worth 20 quid. And then if they actually sit and look at the parts and they spent 8 hours on it, it really should be worth 60 quid. So we built that in from the start, where we said, okay, by definition, the way we built these groups and what we pay tutors, which was us at the start, to be fair, we know we're going to make X if we have 4 people in a group. So we knew we're not going to open a group until we get 4. We might break even at that point, but won't lose money. And then if we have 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, that's all pure profit coming to us then, and we can reinvest that.
There's a good tip there, which is crunch the numbers. And that's something, I think, because we're both very mathsy anyway, I think we take it for granted sometimes that not everyone likes to do that or wants to do that. But we crunch the numbers all the time. We are constantly looking at figures and just making sure stuff adds up and that the company is profitable and we're not just, literally just losing money. And we did that from day one. That was really, really important.
And I suppose in that, I'm going to go to 2 prongs now of 2 other bits of advice. And we'll talk about one more later on probably. And that's to do with, you can find anything out online. Like literally, we're going to talk about that in a second. But from that is, know the tax position. So you're a full-time and I can't stress this enough. You're a full-time employee. If you're a teacher and you want to do a side hustle, there is I think there's a very, very small amount of money for a side hustle where you're allowed to not claim anything.
Yeah, it's £1,000.
It's like £1,000, I think. As soon as you're making anything more than that, which is over £100 a month, which is a side hustle, you kind of hope you get to that point. You really need to know your stuff, and that comes with us talking to an accountant if you don't want to do it yourself, or filling out self-assessment forms, because you're already past your tax-free limit of your personal allowance that's taken up in your job. understand the tax system, put some time into just knowing how it works, because what you don't want to do is run for a year and a half, then you have to get your accounts done and your accountant says, yep, okay, and your tax bill is £800, and you're like,
you have no idea.
Don't have
you maybe you'd think, oh, we pay 20% tax, that's how it works.
Yeah.
And actually you dipped into the 40% because you're a higher earner in your teaching salary. You've just got to know these things and talk to your accountant. Accountants are really good. I think people are scared of talking to accountants and thinking that accountants just want your money.
No.
That's not how it works. Accountants are happy to help you think of efficient ways generally to release your money. They just won't be encouraging you to break the law.
Yeah, exactly.
Tax avoidance and things.
You need to pay your tax. It's as simple as that.
But talk to them. All the accountants we've had a couple. We've only had two, to be fair, over the years, but they've been really, really lovely people, and always happy to just actually help us work out what the hell we're doing.
100%.
But yeah, YouTube free. That we've watched so many videos over the years on the most basic things, and you might again. Get rid of the embarrassment. Doesn't matter if you don't know it. If you think this is basic and everyone else knows it, who cares? Just watch the YouTube video, learn it, and after a few years, you realise you've actually picked up quite a lot of knowledge.
I can kind of talk about this? Because like you said, we're mathsy people. We kind of know how tax worked anyway. We knew that we need to be thinking about crunching these numbers. That came naturally to us. I watch a YouTube video tutorial on how to make scrambled eggs every single time I make scrambled eggs, and I'm not joking, right? And I don't care. This is what I'm saying right now, because that's probably should be embarrassing for me, shouldn't it?
Yes.
And it probably is embarrassing for me. But you know what? I don't care, because I come to do it and I'm like, do you know what? I'm pretty sure I know how to do this, but I'm going to watch a 1.5 minute video to get it right. Okay, I do that for scrambled eggs. Okay. You should do it for your business. If you're going to do a side hustle, don't worry about it. Put 10 minutes into something. There's an answer online.
Remove the fear of the unknown. I think that's the big thing. And we've put one of our bullet points is literally to say all of the above is not as hard as you think. Yeah. Which is all the stuff. And the reason I want to say that is because when we don't know stuff, we generally assume, I think, as people, oh, that's going to be tricky because I don't know it. And other people are experts in that. Do you know what? It really isn't that hard to start a business. No. It just isn't that tricky. There's not that many things you need to do. You just need to go and look up how to do it. Yeah. And that hurdle. Going back to one of the first things we said, do it. There's something that's always really stuck with me. Okay. And I think it was a comedian who said something along the lines, and they were basically saying, if you weren't funny, you'd never have got your girlfriend. She's so attractive and you're ugly. And the response was, yeah, but I am. I think that's Jimmy Carter. Yeah, maybe. It's like, but the whole point was, yeah, but I am funny. And it's like, it's the same with business. It's like, if someone looks at you, and there's always going to be jealous people. We've had people before who are really lovely, and I'm not trying to be horrible, but I know for a fact, they look at what we've done and they're like, they'll say something like, oh, money for old rope. Like, oh yeah, we can all teach and tutor. Like, anyone can do that. And honestly, I'm like, oh, okay, I understand that point of view. It might be frustrating. But then inside, I'm like, but I have done it. Yeah, but we did though. But we did it. And we spent 5 years doing it, and it's built up. Yeah, and it sounds a little bit like up ourselves a little bit, but it's not. You just have to just be like, you know what? Yeah, but not everyone does. Yeah. Lots of people have ideas, and not many of them action them. So just do it. That's the hardest thing. Yeah. Just do it. What's the worst that can happen if you start? You've wasted 16 quid on Company's House. Yeah. And maybe 50 quid on a logo or something. You might. There's a little bit of money you might waste, but you know what? Give it a go. And if it fails, it fails. Failure is. We say it to our kids all the time. It's a good thing. Like, we've got to practice what we preach. We'd be gutted if our kids never tried to do something. Yeah. And found out they weren't good at it. The production. The amount of children who put themselves into this position of fear of singing in front of adults they've never sang before. I would never do that. I would never do that. Okay. But I take a risk for a business. It's the same kind of thing. Like, I should just sing in front of people. Do an Instagram reel. Start a business. Just make a YouTube video. Whatever. Yeah, just do it. Okay, so Dylan, I'm sat here. I'm listening to this podcast. I'm thinking, I've got an idea, but everyone else does this already. Yeah. So does it have to be unique? No. And again, we're interested in business. I've watched Dragon's Den since I was 10. Yeah. I love business. I love the idea of creating something that people want. And again, I think it comes down to the service. We talk about it all the time. I love helping children to understand something. And I love the idea of my businesses or what I do helping someone, and them thinking, wow, I put down this amount of money, but my goodness me, I'm getting so much out of it. So much value back. So much value because the people are good at what they do. We've always been about that, the value. So when we're thinking, okay, I want to start a cake baking company, but I know there are 3 people locally who make fantastic cakes, and how on earth can I possibly get close to them? You're not going to get close to them to begin with. Yeah, you might never get close to them. Yeah, but you've got to think about what your goals are. If your goal is immediately to be the world disruptor and take over the world, you need to go down a different path and accept that it might fail. Yeah, it's more risk. If you want to be Amazon, you're not going to be Amazon. Let me be honest. This is about side hustles. Yeah, this is about side hustles, and you'll hear the amazing stories, but there are hundreds of people who do a side job. And you know what? You don't need to take all of the pie to be successful. We are a tutoring company. I know
honestly, over the years, I've seen hundreds of tutoring companies.
Yeah, genuinely hundreds.
And before we started, people did what we did. People did what we do, rather.
Yep.
After we've started, there's been even more that have joined in and done exactly what we do.
Yeah.
And all I would say to people is, if you're thinking, oh, how can I deal with these competitors? Do you know what? This is where it comes from Dragon's Den. I think it was Peter Jones talked about this. An invention doesn't have to be brand new. No one's ever thought about it.
Yeah.
All an invention has to be is very good and better than other people.
Yeah, genuinely.
And have a USP.
Not even the best. That's the funniest thing.
Think about Levi Roots, right?
Yeah.
He went on to Dragon's Den and made cooking sauces. What? There's like an aisle of cooking sauces in every single supermarket in the whole world. But you know what? He had a brand. He had a personal brand. He was likable. He had a social media presence afterwards. He went on television, and and at the end of the day, his sauce was good.
Yeah, he served himself up a piece of the pie.
Exactly.
Genuinely,
that.
like the pie is big enough for everyone. I remember speaking to a massive tutoring company, like way bigger than us. We were talking global, huge company, and I was talking to one of their staff, and they said, "Yeah, the pie's big enough for everyone. Don't worry." You know, we can still be this massive global company, and you can still have your piece of the pie.
Absolutely.
There was, Dylan said, we've seen hundreds and hundreds of tutors doing exactly what we do, but it doesn't mean we can't do our business. Yeah. It just means they're equally.
Do you know what?
A piece of the pie.
A little story here again. It doesn't mean you have to be resentful or angry or they're your enemies either. Like you said, you talked to this person who works for a global tutoring company.
Yeah.
There's no reason why you can't be friendly with them. They're going to come after our customers. We're going to go after
still competing.
But you know what? They're not even their customers or our customers. They're just people who want a service. Give them a good service. It's simple as that. Yeah. And I know for a fact, again, I'm thinking of, recently we put some posts out there about our tutoring. And there's, again, something with marketing where you can kind of go down a route of almost slandering other people. Almost being like, yeah, we're great. We're fantastic. That's all good. And you can kind of get yourself caught up a little bit. And we definitely did this a little bit where we were thinking of these huge corporations that were like, how annoying huge corporations are. It's impersonal. You can do that. Blah blah blah. You get 100 kids in a call and they spend £5 each, and it's dead cheap, but it's just not the same. Blah blah blah. All of them are legitimate, right? But we kind of went around that. We did a post, I think, where it was like us, wow, amazing,
us versus
beautiful, them, and it was like impersonal, blah blah blah. And it did leave a bit of a sour taste in our mouths, but we thought, well, let's just try it. It's a bit of marketing, and it kind of really backfired for us because we got a message from a local tutoring company near us who we really respect, who do a really good job, been doing it for ages, longer than we have been tutoring. We're the new kids on the block compared to them, and they kind of very nicely were like, we do all the stuff, nothing like that. You can't say them. Like, we don't do all that. Don't tarnish. There's loads of, and they even said there's loads of other local tutors who do an amazing job. And I completely agreed with them. Yeah. And I remember I replied to them. I said,
embarrassing, wasn't it?
We weren't thinking about, we weren't slandering you at all whatsoever. No. We think, and we respect you a lot, and we think you do an amazing job. But it came across that way.
Yeah. But you know what? We made a mistake. We deleted it and we moved on.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's going to happen to you when you start a side hustle.
That's exactly
You're going to do something embarrassingly wrong. We've done it on this podcast. We've done a podcast episode with 2 big guests where I forgot to record it for 40 minutes. There are moments where you think, oh my God, this is so, I should quit. This is embarrassing. Dylan tried to force me to quit. I'm not joking. But you do
I did get Alistair Campbell as a co-host. And I was like, you don't do it every week.
But you just got to move on. You just got to move on. But one thing I will say, just a bit of advice again, we very much live by this, is in this whole process, try to be a bit disruptive. Try to think of something. Try to think of something that's going to allow you to get that bit of that pie, whatever that size of the pie is that you want. What is it that's going to get you on the scene? So you're not just right down there. If you want to be a bit higher up, what is it? What are you offering? For us, it was the videos. We noticed that most tutoring companies at that time just weren't doing video content. They weren't doing YouTube. So we were like, okay, we'll make a YouTube channel and we will just do tons and tons and tons of video content and see if people come to us through that.
The big thing for us was we wanted children to want to learn from us. That was huge. And it wasn't just, a lot of it before then was like, no, we're the best. We're very academic and we'll get you into these amazing schools. And that's all good. That's what a lot of parents want. Yeah. Ours was child-centered. It was, we're going to make your children watch this. You're going to walk in and see them watching our videos already because they want to and think, what? My child is watching a video on Kent test preparation by choice because they did a funny skit at the start. That kind of stuff wasn't happening. And that's how we built an audience. And we did everything else still. We have the best, honestly, I don't care about saying this. Our tutors are 10 out of 10, the tutors that work with us. The content we have painstakingly written ourselves. We know it's good. It's been checked by other people. We know we know the service is quality. That's really important. Be good at what you're doing. But our USP, we do this little extra thing as well. That's going to get the pie for us. That's going to get people involved. And you know what? Harping back to the very start, what we said, we're passionate about that. It was never a chore to make videos.
Yeah.
We want to help as many people as possible. And as a result of doing something really well that we're very good at, we grew and we grew.
And these things came over time. And do you know what? When we started, we didn't reinvent the wheel. We tutored. Like, there's nothing new about what we did.
Yeah.
We just did something that we knew worked. And then we were like, cool, how can we make this better?
Yeah.
So that we get more of the pie. Simple as that.
Yeah. So whatever it is you're thinking of doing, do it really well. And over time, start thinking, how can I be disruptive? Can I make a reel? Can I become a personality? Can I put myself out there a bit more? Can I offer something for free?
Yeah. Is there a way I can sell this that other people aren't doing that you think would attract business towards you? Whatever it is. I mean, I'll finish. I don't know if you want to finish now, but there's a little story. We recently, literally yesterday, I think you saw it on my table yesterday. We got a jumper, a handmade, custom-made jumper made for River, and it was made.
River, your daughter.
Sorry, for River, my daughter. So it was made. It's for Lauren, my partner. Yeah. The jumper's for her, but it's it says "Mama" across it, and each letter has been made with different. What they call baby grows from when she was a newborn that we don't need anymore. Just sentimental, really lovely. And it turns out, by the way, I haven't even told you this yet, that the person that made them is an ex-teacher.
Okay, there you go.
Ex-teacher and it genuinely side hustle.
Right.
Side hustle, built it up. She's made a really good product.
Yeah.
And and honestly, it is as simple as that.
Yeah.
She's extremely good at her craft.
Yeah.
Makes a really good product, is lovely, customer care, really top class customer care, has invested time and money into making the product good, making a good website. And
did she do that overnight?
Absolutely not. But I just thought that was a funny little link
there,
because that jumper was sat on the table this morning.
Yeah.
That we've ordered from it, and it's beautiful and lovely. And you know what? That was a side hustle one day.
Yeah.
It's built up to something more.
Awesome.
So it can happen. It can happen for you. You just got to take that first step. It's the hardest bit. Cliche, I know, but it's true.
Brilliant. Yeah, let's finish it off there. If you've got any more questions about what we do and how we grew the business, do get in touch with us. Follow us on Instagram at Teach, Seek, Repeat Podcast. Message us. We'll get everything through there. And just join us for the ride. It's a good one on Instagram. And I love talking about that because I'm really passionate about people, being able to achieve their dreams in that way. And it might not work. We're not going to sit here and be those people on Instagram and say, it can work for everyone. It can't, and it won't. It's as simple as that. Let's do a quick jingle. I'm going to finish off on a nice little, again, another post I saw about teaching.
Lovely.
And we'll do that.
Cool.
Right, before we finish up, very quickly, I want to ask you guys listening to please leave us a review. I know it's annoying I ask most of the time, but it helps us so much. And we were literally talking to someone this week who's listened from the start, who messaged us and said, I actually left you a review the other day. And I was like, I love you for this. And it just goes to show how many people are listening, because we know the numbers don't match up remotely, who haven't yet reviewed. So guys, if you could review us, we'd really appreciate it. It's all we ask for.
Thanks.
I found a post the other day. When I say I found, the algorithm spit a post out to me. And it was a story about a teacher. And it's incredibly heartwarming, and I thought it'd be really nice to finish off this episode. Okay. And I want your thoughts about this at the end.
Go for it.
So, a former student, now in his mid-20s, reached out to me via email back in October to let me know that he was getting married. He wanted to know my address so that he could send me a save the date notice. I happily replied, thrilled to hear of his upcoming marriage and happy to know that he thought of me. The envelope arrived a few weeks later, and I did in fact save the date in my calendar. Around December, so 2 months later, I received another message from him telling me to check my mail. I thought it was odd, since I'd already received the wedding announcement. I don't go to very many weddings, so I wasn't aware of the actual invitation being different to a save the date.
Oh, right.
I also forget to check my snail mail frequently, so I guess my invite had been in the mailbox for a week without me knowing. To the mailbox I went. Amongst the many advertisements was a chunky envelope that definitely looked like a wedding invitation. I grabbed it, walked back to my home and opened it near the recycle bin since I needed to dispose of all the unwanted ads. The invite was there, asking if I would like to attend a destination wedding in Tuscany from June the 29th to July the 5th, sorry. Mm-hmm. Wow. I was absolutely flummoxed. A wedding in Italy? That's crazy. And also awesome. Then I saw a handwritten note tucked into the back of the envelope. I recognised his handwriting immediately, having read it so many times during his time in my class. It was very unique. I figured it was a personalised message to go along with the invitation, which seemed like something he would do. As I read the note, I started to tear up. I couldn't believe it. He was asking me to be his best man at his wedding.
Wow.
After my eyes stopped watering, I responded as fast as I could to his message. I understand why he wanted me to open the invitation. He'd been waiting about 2 weeks to hear from me to see if I would accept. I felt awful knowing I'd made him wait that long. I accepted and started saving up for my plane ticket. Tomorrow I fly to Italy to see my student get married in a Tuscan villa. I'm full of joy, love, and anxiety for the next week. I'm so proud of my student and the man he has become, and thankful that I get to share this amazing day by his side. For the teachers out there, you never know what kind of an impact that you're going to have.
I mean, this is really sweet.
Isn't it?
Yeah. I did not expect the best man bit. I thought you was going to say there was like a wad of money in there or something to pay for the flight. I genuinely thought that's where it was going.
Yeah.
Like, and he paid it for me as well.
No, not paid it. You got to pay yourself to get there.
I mean, two prongs to that, isn't there?
Yeah.
Firstly, it's just, it made me laugh a bit, the whole best man thing. So I was like, they don't even speak. They're not best friends.
When we think about being really nice to our kids, I don't ever expect to be their best man.
No, that's too far. Too far.
That's not what I
But
want.
in the sentimental time, that is just like the ultimate version of it paying dividends to you, isn't it? Being nice to the kids and making genuine relationships. The idea that someone valued you so much when they were a kid, when they were in your class. Was it primary school? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I think I'm not sure.
It make more sense if it was like secondary.
Yeah,
and
a bit more.
Until it was like 18 or something.
And maybe this guy, just how it goes, you might not have many friends, and you really cling on to this
someone who
figure.
you value.
Yeah,
which is really nice.
Yeah,
jokes aside, I think it's really quite sweet.
I just read it and I thought, wow.
Yeah, I don't know about you. I don't know if this is I don't know what the word is, but I like the idea of like kids getting in touch with me when they're older, being like, "Oh, you were such a good teacher, thank you, and you helped me with this thing." Yeah, it's very selfish almost. I don't know what the word. I don't know if selfish is the word. Self-centered.
No, I don't know.
But like, I know a lot of teachers who honestly they hate the idea of kids getting back in touch with them after because they're like, "No, it's done now. It's weird. I don't want to talk to me because I don't want to talk about."
Sure.
I know people like that. But I'm like, no, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it when kids come back to the school. They walk past.
Yeah.
I had it the other day at the performance.
Yeah.
So it was outside. It was like late. It was
siblings
in the PM.
and stuff.
Yeah. And they weren't even siblings, these ones.
Oh, wow.
They just happened to be walking past the school. It was like just a gang of like 6 friends. They were all in my class last year. And they saw that all the parents coming for the production and thought, oh, I wonder if Mr. Stevens is around. And they got a kid to go in and find me.
Aww.
And this kid came in and was like, there's a bunch of random kids outside that wanted to speak to you. And I was
Who
like,
want you to be their best man.
Like, right, here we go. I got trouble out here, have we, lads? And, I'm going out. And they were like, Mr. Stevens, way! And I went out and just had a quick chat with them. And it was just, I just love those moments because they actually wanted to speak to me. I wasn't their teacher anymore. They just thought, oh, that guy was nice to us, actually really nice to us. I'm going to go and catch up with him.
It goes to show those relationships are real.
Yeah, they are
can't
real.
Fake that.
And they last, and maybe one day I'll be one of their best men.
I actually said it under my breath while you were talking.
I thought you did. I kind of subliminally caught it. It's a very nice story.
It's lovely.
Yeah, it makes that wide point.
Very quickly then, have you, since being a teacher, because you like that, has it made you get in contact with any of your old teachers knowing that you might be able to give them some of the joy that you like, or are you just selfish again and just take
do you know what? Not since I've been a teacher, but before I was a teacher.
Were you already doing that?
Yeah, one person. So before I was a teacher, when I was an adult, so I think I was like 18 maybe on Facebook, I added one of my primary school teachers.
Was it Miss Plankton?
It was. Miss Plankton.
Plankton, sorry.
Not Plankton. She's not from SpongeBob. It was Miss Plankton who I spoke about last week.
Nice.
Yeah, I did. And I messaged her and I remember telling her, like, oh, you were my
And she said,
teacher.
sorry, who are you?
Yeah. No, she remembered me, actually. And a couple of secondary school teachers as well that were added whilst at the end of secondary school. I remember being like, I had you. And
so, am I going to be a best man, or one of them going to be a best man?
Probably one of my teachers. Yeah, probably one of my teachers. Yeah, I'm going to try and just to offend you, I'll find the most obscure one that I actually didn't have a relationship with.
Yeah,
and be like, would you be my best man? Yeah.
But you're not getting married either.
Marriage.
So. That's for another podcast.
Let's hope the girls don't listen this far, eh? Whoa.
Right, guys, thank you so much for listening. Do leave us a review. Do follow us on socials and share this podcast with as many people as you can. Hopefully there was some really actionable advice in this one that you can actually go and
action.
Yeah, I was going to say action-wise.
Action
with an action movie whilst you're watching someone with an action film.
Just stop. Just stop.
Action.
End of the episode.
Action.
Now.
See you later.
Bye.